If you were married for 20 years and now you're divorced or separated, I need to talk to you. I know how you feel. I know the silence that comes after the papers are signed. I know the moment you sit in your house or an apartment and realize this is my life now. And after 20 years, you don't just lose a husband. You lose a structure. You lose a rhythm. You lose a family unit. You lose the version of yourself that existed inside of that marriage. And when that structure collapses, your nervous system feels it because your body doesn't understand legal documents. It understands safety, and that safety just changed. And if you're over 50, starting over doesn't feel exciting. It feels vulnerable. It feels like, do I really have the energy to rebuild this entire life? It feels like I don't have another 20 years to waste. It feels like questioning your own judgment. And for many of us, and for my clients, it feels like questioning God. God, I made a covenant. I meant it. So what does this mean now? Did I fail? Did you not show up? Was I supposed to endure more? And those questions are real. And I'm not here to preach at you. I'm here to tell you the truth. Sometimes obedience looks like walking away from what is breaking us. Sometimes what looks like spiritual on the outside actually is destroying you on the inside. And when a 20-year marriage ends, you don't just grieve a person. You grieve the future you thought you were building. You grieve the holidays you imagined with grandchildren, with your entire family together. You grieve the version of yourself that believed this would last forever. And that grief is not weakness. It's evidence that you loved deeply, that you trusted, that you honored a covenant that you made with God. And I want to speak to the woman who is 2 years out, or maybe you're not even out yet. And maybe you're watching this quietly, trying to decide whether you can leave, trying to decide whether you can survive it, trying to decide whether God will still be with you if you do. I want you to hear me clearly. On the other side of the pain, on the other side of confusion, on the other side of the chaos you're living in right now, on the other side of all the unknowns, every promise God made is still real. There will come a morning when you wake up and there is peace in your chest and the tightness is gone. Not fake peace, not forced peace, but real peace. There will come a day when you realize you are stronger than you knew. There will come a moment when you understand why you had to walk through what you are walking through. Not because God wanted you hurt, but because there was something in you that had to be refined. And one day, you won't be angry at God. You won't even be angry at the person who hurt you. You will have a depth of understanding. You will understand forgiveness in a way you never did before. You will understand what it means to forgive yourself, to forgive the person who wounded you, to forgive the people who are supposed to support you, but they supported the person who hurt you. And this is hard, but you're going to have to forgive God, not because he needs it, but because your heart needs to release the disappointment. And then there will come a moment when you apologize to him. Not out of shame, but out of clarity. For believing the lie that you were unworthy. For believing the lie that you were not enough. For forgetting what he actually says about you. And that season, friend, is sacred. But it does not happen by accident. It happens and it requires order. Because there is an order to healing. And you cannot jump into proving you're okay. You cannot jump into dating. You cannot jump into building a new life on the same internal patterns that brought you to the collapse, to where you are today. You stabilize first. And that was the hardest part for me, was sitting still in my pain, facing my own attachment patterns and asking why I tolerated what I tolerated, seeing where I overfunctioned, seeing where I stayed silent, seeing where I confused endurance with love. And that kind of honesty is humbling, but it's also so freeing, because if you do not build internal stability after divorce, You will carry survival into the next relationship, not because any of us are foolish, but because trauma repeats what feels familiar. And I've refused to repeat it, not because I'm strong, not because I had it all together, but because I was tired of chaos. I was tired of performing strength. I was tired of holding everything together while I was quietly falling apart. And until I realized internal stability changed everything. And I sat down and I said, God, what do you want to do with my pain? And I wrote my ebooks so you can understand what trauma actually does inside of your body. So you can understand why you feel the way you feel. So you can stop thinking that you're losing your mind. And you can start understanding, because that brings clarity, and clarity reduces the internal chaos. And then God had me create the inner healing journey method. And that's where you learn how to regulate, how to rebuild your identity, how to develop agency again, and how to walk in wisdom instead of reaction. And when you're ready to go deeper, when you want transformation that is not surface level, that is when you work with me one-on-one. That is where confusion ends. That is where identity is restored. And that is where peace becomes sustainable. Not because your life is perfect. Mine isn't perfect. But because you are grounded, you are ordered, you are stable, you are not disqualified, and you are not spiritually rejected. You right now are in a rebuilding season, and rebuilding is sacred. So if you want to go deeper into internal stability, then apply to work with me one-on-one. And if you're in the beginning stages and you want to get your feet grounded, first begin with the Inner Healing Journey Method. The link for both is in this description box. Before you go, would you do me a favor? Subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with another woman over 50 who is in this season right now and ready to walk in clarity, wisdom, and truth. I was in a season where I was finally ready to walk in exactly that: clarity, wisdom, and truth. And here's something that I needed to hear and tell myself day after day after day. You and I are not done. We are just rebuilding stronger. And I know that can be hard to hear because some of you are sitting there feeling exactly what I felt when I left. Alone. And I abandoned God and I disobeyed God. I hurt God. And that's why there's emotion as I film this, because this is real. And it's real for every client I've worked with over the last 3 years. The internal doubt and disbelief are real. And even though this month marks 4 years since my divorce, the weight of what we face after 50, separating after 20-year marriages and longer, it's enormous. We stayed longer than we should have. We endured more than we should have. We betrayed ourselves longer than we should have. And trauma wasn't talked about. Abuse wasn't talked about. Inner child work wasn't talked about. We just didn't know what we know now. But now we do. And that means we no longer have to struggle the way we did. So if you're sitting there and tears are streaming down your face, I understand. And I wish I could reach through the screen and give you a hug, because you are enough, you are worthy, you are important, and you are lovable. And even though you doubt this, even though this may be really hard to believe, it will get better. But it will not get better by pushing harder. It gets better through internal stability, through rebuilding your faith, through allowing yourself to actually feel. Because if you don't feel, the reality is you can't heal. And pretending to be strong and showing up again and again and forcing yourself forward, that only creates more stress, more frustration, less peace, less joy, less hope. And if peace, joy, and hope are what you're looking for, then this is the season to say yes to your healing. Use the tools, start the work, choose yourself. Because that little girl inside of you, she's been waiting for this for over 40 years. And now is the time. Thank you for watching today. God bless you on your own inner healing journey, and I will see you next time.